what did or didn't happen in Hurricane Charlie or in Hurricane Irma in that region. There are challenges in terms of people having mobility issues. Every evacuation decision is a very personal one. And we know from social science that there is a portion of the community that's very resistant to evacuating no matter what. But the key is to get the messaging there. We are working on ways to help people visualize what does 10 to 15 feet of storm surge look like in your community. That's a number that we think of as physical scientists, and it means something to us. But to people who live in an area, what does that mean? What is 10 to 15 feet of water? What's that going to do to my house? What's that going to do? What's that going to look like in a landmark that I recognize in my city? So we're working with social science on ways to try to visualize that and display that for people so that they know, hey, if you're in this evacuation zone area, you've been asked to leave because it's not going to be safe. And again, I think those are the things we have to work on. And it's not just, we can't do it all from the Hurricane Center. It's got to be done at the local level through local National Weather Service offices, all the way from FEMA down to the state and local emergency management level as well to really get that message out. And it all gets to get funneled through the media, the broadcast meteorologists, the traditional media as well, to try to, again, reemphasize the risk is there. And to, again, point out that every storm is different. As the administrator mentioned, just because you didn't see life-threatening storm surge in a storm of similar strength or similar track in the past doesn't mean it won't happen this time. Sure.
Brian Bergiano, Top Media.
Yeah.
One of the things that has been going around this season, or a message that's been going out, is that an El Nino is forecast to develop possibly by the peak of the season. Mm-hmm. So with a lot of people, they assume it's an El Nino, it's going to be a quiet season. How do you convince people to get around that misconception and that they should prepare despite the fact that we could see an El Nino potentially dilute the season's activity?
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge because, well, we've had major hurricanes and significant hurricane landfalls in El Nino years and otherwise very quiet hurricane seasons. I mean, that's one reason, there's uncertainty in how El Nino is going to evolve, how fast it's going to come on, how strong it's going to be, exactly how that's going to play out in terms of affecting the environment in the Atlantic Basin, in terms of wind shear or these other factors that can be more negative in terms of tropical storm and hurricane development. But there are other factors in the Atlantic Basin that would suggest a busy year in the absence of El Nino. Very warm sea surface temperatures, weaker low-level easterly flow, African monsoon that's more active than typical. And we're still in this multi-decadal period of enhanced Atlantic activity. So these forces are going to kind of fight it out over the course of this hurricane season, and we don't know how the season's going to play out. There's more uncertainty in this seasonal forecast than typical. We have a 40% chance of near normal, 30% below normal, 30% above normal. So, but again, the message has to be, no matter what the seasonal forecast is, you have to prepare as if you're going to be affected. And that's just what we have to keep iterating from both the meteorology side, the emergency management side, the media side, the preparedness side.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, español, se puede usar. Yo te la puedo contestar. Well, you can tell me what's the question? No, I can. Oh, okay, go ahead then. Go ahead, because I need information, all of the information in Spanish. Because we are a Spanish channel, so I'm asking if the class is something in Spanish. No. Oh, I can talk to you a little bit. Okay. Anybody from the back? Anybody? No? Okay, so
There was one back here, I don't know.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Back over here.
I had a question for Administrator Griswold. I worked for the Weather Channel last year. You had told us you guys were committed to increasing awareness and resources for Hispanic communities. What's being done differently this year to increase the outreach and resources to the Hispanic community?
What we did really 2 years ago now is we've evolved how we've done our National Preparedness Month and our Ready campaign. And in the past, we have done a very broad, very general readiness campaign to reach out to individuals. And in 2021, we did our first culturally competent, culturally specific campaign, and it was to the Hispanic and Latino community. So I think what we talked about then is how we targeted that community throughout 2021 to help get information out to them. And what we saw was a tremendous increase in the number of people that have visited listo.gov, which is where you can get a lot of information in Spanish about what you can do to be better prepared, which then would translate into better actions. And so we continue to have communication, and listo.gov is the best place that you can go to get more information in Spanish. But we will continue to reach out to that community as well as all communities to help increase that messaging. And I think what was great about that is because it's more than just simple translation. It was talking to people about how do you receive information, how will you relate to it, and what would cause you to take action. And I think by having that grassroots effort of trying to build the campaign really helped tailor our message in a way that was more actionable. Last year, we focused our messaging campaign on our African American community. Again, really successful campaign, used our HBCUs to help us get that message out there, really targeting how are we reaching people so they will actually act on the information that we're giving them. And then excited this year that our Ready campaign is going to be focused on our older adults. You know, as we've seen, the majority of the people that lose their lives in these types of events are over the age of 65. And so we really want to figure out how do we help get the message out to our older populations, and that'll be our focus going into this year.
One more and that's it. Yeah, go for it.
Lisa Perez, CGT of American. My question is for you, Administrator Criswell. What else has been done to help the residents of Fort Myers Beach? I was there a few months ago, and I have to say that the place still looks decimated, and so many of them are still struggling. So how are we going to prevent this from happening again?
Yeah, Fort Myers Beach certainly was one of the most hardest hit areas after Hurricane Ian, and we have had a lot of resources in there. Again, we used technology and satellite imagery, artificial intelligence to help us get in there and help these communities start the recovery process quicker. But I think one of the biggest things that we do, not just in Fort Myers Beach, but in all communities after these types of events, is help them rebuild in a way that's going to make them more resilient. Florida really has great building codes, which you could see actually across Fort Myers Beach, where some residences and businesses were built to a higher standard, a higher building code, and had less impact. And that's really what our goal is, right? We want to reduce the impacts that individuals and business owners are having as a result of these severe weather events. And so as we rebuild, as we help communities rebuild homes, as we help businesses, as we help public infrastructure rebuild, we want them to rebuild it in a way that makes them more resilient. That's why the funding that we provide doesn't just bring them back to the way they were. It also provides an opportunity to bring it back stronger, to bring it back more resilient, to make sure that it can withstand the future impacts. And so we will continue in Fort Myers Beach to continue to do that as we work through the permanent repair of these structures. You know, we're still 1 year in, right? A lot of the permanent repair is just beginning. It was a lot of temporary repair to stabilize infrastructure, but now we're going into that permanent repair process. And as we're doing that, it's so important to make sure that we're not just making it the way it was. We want it to withstand a similar event in the future and make sure that that community is more resilient.
Thank you so much for joining. That concludes our press briefing for the day. And thank you for anyone that has any interviews coming up. Just please come to me and I'll assist you with those. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks.